Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Farming Podcast brought to you by Private Property. My name is Mbali, a farmer entrepreneur, and I'm happy that today we have a guest, and I'm not riding solo because I love speaking to people in the business along the agri-value chain who are doing phenomenal work on the ground that we never hardly get to see their stories and hear how they started their businesses. So today's a special episode where we get to hear from a person who I know pretty much ran a senior position in a corporate job and has started her own business. She's an agripreneur in the agricultural sector, and we're going to hear from Phumzile's story in terms of how she started her business, the Crop Box Africa, and where she is now. I know she started a business during the global pandemic. So, for anybody sitting at home thinking there's no opportunities out there for me, it's COVID, we're in a pandemic, I can't start any business. Trust me, I think there's a lot of valuable insight and learning that you will hear from Phumzile's story tonight. As I always say, thank you for watching, and we always appreciate your support here on Private Property. Most importantly, we want you to engage with us. Crack questions for our guest. Anything that you want to hear from our guest, please comment, share this video, like this live podcast. And if you missed it, please go back to our YouTube channel under the Private Property YouTube channel under the playlist selection where you would click on the Farming Podcast section. Of course, we do have other shows brought to you by Private Property with Zama coming every single day from Monday to Friday at 7 o'clock, talking all things property and really going more deep in terms of property questions, needs, and answering all your burning questions that you have with regards to property. And she's always speaking to very experienced guests onto the show. And then we have SD on Wednesdays that she comes to as also, which her show is basically the first time home buyer show. So if you're a first time home buyer going into property for the first time and you really have some questions and want to gain some knowledge around this, SD podcast has obviously got all the information packed for you. And then on weekends we have Chad, where he has the dream job, pretty much visiting all the affluent houses across South Africa and just telling you more about these properties. So if you miss any of our shows, because, life has to continue on a daily basis, please visit our YouTube channel. Most importantly, subscribe get our alerts and you know that we've got the best content for you on the private property social media channels, and as well as you're more than happy to also visit our website for more information. But let's get into tonight's show. I welcome you, Phumzile, who is the CEO and founder of the Crop Box Africa. Phumzile, how are you doing?
Hi, good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I know we were speaking behind the scenes, and I'm going to put you on the spot to say the last time I saw you, the last time we interacted was pretty much in a boardroom where you were working in your 9-to-5 corporate job. And I'm surprised. The crop box, like, how did you start? When did this happen? When did the idea come to mind? And just tell us a bit more about your business.
Yes, well, thanks for having me. Absolutely. We were literally in a boardroom, and I was managing an urban agriculture program. But I think that sums up the background as to how I landed in this space. It was probably just a matter of time. I was working, or rather being exposed to the industry through the urban agriculture program that I ran in corporate. And so I had an understanding of the industry and what young farmers in city centers, in and around city centers, are faced with in terms of access to markets. I mean, these were the things that we were trying to introduce and to bring a solution through the program. And so I knew very well what the pain points of farmers, urban farmers and young ones in particular were. And I had no doubt in my mind that that's what I wanted to do as well. And I started visiting some of the farmers and just fell in love with this idea of a pack house facility. And that's when corporate is so big on job creation and finding big job creating and transformational programs. And so job creation has always been at the top of my mind, insofar as me wanting to make an impact in the development space, but also in my private life. You know, I knew at some point that I needed a secondary income, not necessarily wanting to run a business. Funny enough, I didn't see myself as a business owner anytime soon. But I knew that I wanted to have a secondary income stream. And the principles of creating jobs has always been there. And so I fell in love with models of pack house facilities where this novel idea of seeing food production right in front of my eyes and being at the very forefront of it and at the beginning of the process and feeding nations through such a pack house facility. That was my vision. And so I traveled, went back to my hometown of Hammanskraal, where I wanted to put up a pack house facility at the end of 2019. And I just thought to myself that the location wasn't as right as yet, because it was in an industrial park that was dilapidated and was surrounded by manufacturing businesses that were not conducive to food. And so I came back to Joburg and thought to myself, okay, let's try and spin around a little bit. I mean, there's rooftop farms in and around the city center. I went to One Fox to see if there's any spaces there that I can occupy. And before I knew it, as I was in my research phase, COVID struck. And that's where I had to pivot my model. I thought to myself, people are locked inside their houses. The show must go on in terms of the provision of food, but even deeper so in terms of food security. So how do I still maintain wanting to do what my passion point was, which was job creation and food security, but within this whole new world? And so I went through the delivery model.
Right. So I know tonight's topic is basically about how to start a fresh produce supply business. So maybe let's deep dive more into the crop box. So what is your service offering and what opportunity did you see in the market?
Sure. So we do three things. Firstly, we source and supply fresh produce from urban farmers in the Krugersdorp area, particularly, or mostly, because that is one of the closest peri-urban areas in which crop is grown very well within and around city centres in Gauteng. So we identify farmers that have got not only the quality but the capacity to supply what we are looking for. And we've got three markets. Firstly, bulk and wholesale. We service any and everyone who's looking for fresh produce in bulk. NGOs, we work a lot with NGOs that they've got feeding schemes going on, whether it's for the elderly or early childhood development or local communities. We then put together packages for them, and it's literally plug and play for them insofar as beneficiaries is concerned. So we do the packing and the whole process. And lastly, we do household deliveries on a weekly basis. So we would come to your house, deliver contactless payment systems, the whole shebang. And so we sell the concept of fresh produce that has been harvested on the day of delivery to clients who are really conscious about where food comes from and the quality of food as well.
Right. So how did you go about finding customers? You know, you said you were busy in your research phase, and then once you wanted to start, you know, then bam, we're all of a sudden in a lockdown, the global pandemic hit. So how did you know that people like myself, maybe not as a farmer's hat, but, you know, who's in charge of the grocery list in my household, how do you know that people like myself have an interest in maybe buying directly from a crop box? How did you go about doing that research?
Well, I think what I've definitely learned in this space as an entrepreneur and in this space, as I'm saying, is that opportunity and ideas are everywhere. You just have to be open to them at any given point in time, you know. And I think a lot of us are on social media for various reasons, mostly for entertainment reasons, but there's a lot of commercial activity and business activity that actually happens on Instagram. The influencers that you are following, for you might see them at first glance being, you know, people that are entertaining you, but believe it or not, they're running businesses or they're selling products. You know, it's just so happened to be appealing. And so I found that as I was browsing on social media, I found there was a certain pull towards delivery, the delivery model. And I knew that within food, all I had to do was just convert whatever plans or ideas that I had into taking it to people as compared to people coming to take them from me. So it was just a shift in model or the mode of delivery. But the concept of food deliveries was something that I had started seeing a lot on social media. And so as I started researching, especially since at the time that was all we had, you know, digital information through the lockdown. And so I shifted the model to that channel rather. And so through social media, you also get to see what people like. And actually, believe it or not, I started wearing my own consumer hat on, you know, and can even go as far as me saying that's how I got to put together what goes into the crop box. I thought as a customer myself and the things that I would like to see and the things that I buy on a weekly basis insofar as fresh produce is concerned. And so the question on how I knew people wanted this, it was inevitable. That's where the world was going. And I suppose I was in that realm of being in a business mindset. So I opened my eyes to what people are doing and started tweaking my model to say, okay, I can do it like this and like that. And I also looked at what I was privy to, you know, like I'm saying, Krugersdorp is not so far from where I stay, a couple of kilometers. And so I knew where I could allocate farmers. I knew where I can get the supply from. You know, I started putting things that are in and around me together to connect the dots. And I was very much connected to social media, staying in tune in terms of what is happening on the ground.
That is fantastic, Phumzile. But what goes into the selection of the items that go inside the crop box? Is it a push factor where the customers are saying, we want more cabbage, we want more Brussels sprouts, we want more spinach in the crop box, we want more pineapple? Or do you then decide to say, okay, this is what I'm offering. A box is X amount and it has this type of fresh produce, which consists of fruits and vegetables. How are you selecting and what is inside that beautiful box that you always advertise on social media?
That I'm always advertising is. It sort of is a combination of things at the same time. At the very initial stage, to be honest, I put what I knew my farmers had. So from the very get-go, I was very clear on the fact that I am going to be sourcing majority of the items from farmers myself, where I literally go to the farmers and I collect the orders that I had put, right? So I would actually tweak the menu to say I'm going to put spinach and cucumber, because I know that whoever has got spinach, whoever has got cucumber. So I was very, very calculative towards that. With time, I had to adapt to seasons. So whatever's in season at that particular time. For example, we've just come out of the summer season where there was your mangoes and your lychees and your peaches. And so I would adapt, tweaking here and there, not fully, because some things I don't want to be responsible for if they don't go right. Like, for example, if the grapes are not as sweet, I'm very, very sensitive to customer feedback like that. So I calculate in terms of what's in season, but also, and so sort of seeing the things that I can control to some point or another. But of course, you can't really forecast what something tastes like if you're not, even the farmer themselves can't even necessarily forecast what something is going to taste like. So I suppose I also need to let go of that insecurity. But it has to do with whatever is in season, and we just go along with also availability. For example, right now, adjusting from berries to raspberries, although it's within the berry family. And about 80% of the box consists of vegetables and 20% fruits. And so that's just based on my preferences as, like I'm saying, as me, as putting on my consumer hat. So, yeah.
Right. A new entrepreneur in the food and agricultural sector, how is it that you're marketing your business? What channels are you using?
Social media, I can't stress enough social media. And within social media, I know that we like throwing the word out, social media out there, as if it's a blanket approach. It isn't. I have to customize all of my messaging, although the essence of the message is the same, but what I put out on Instagram has to vary to what I put out on LinkedIn. What I put on my own personal page is different to what I put on my business page. So I use generally social media as a base to advertise and to also keep my customers, my clientele, and also my network in the loop insofar as what is happening, some of the things that are facing me, or some of the things, exciting things that I'm involved in. I communicate as much as possible within the various social media platforms and what they're called for. So on LinkedIn would be much more professional in trying to get that bigger commercial clientele, whereas Instagram is a little bit of both, and relatability as well. Mostly that, but also word of mouth. You'd be surprised how, if you put yourself out there, how much you get back. So word of mouth, you might be in a completely different industry, be doing something else, but always have your own business at the back of your mind and see how you can integrate it into wherever you are.
Wow. If you're watching us tonight, I'm joined by Phumzile Chifunyiwe, who is the CEO and founder of the Crop Box, which is a fresh produce supply business that she started pre-lockdown or during lockdown. And she's just shared a bit about her story in terms of how she had done research before she quit a corporate job. And at the time where she just wanted to start her business, unfortunately, the global pandemic hit. And just within those few months or few weeks, she really had to pivot her business and try to find a way for her to service her customers nevertheless. And right now, she's just sharing her journey in terms of how she started the business, how she saw the opportunity in the market, who she's working with, which is a lot of farmers on the ground, and we'll get to it right now. But most importantly, she's using social media as an avenue to advertise and market her business. And she mentioned that mostly her box consists of vegetables and fruit. And I think it's just been a great first half just to understand who she is as an individual and how she's been able to tap into a market that not many are brave to pursue. Phumzile, now I want to get into closer to home, right? Speaking and working alongside farmers. Sorry, communicating, not speaking, communicating and working alongside farmers, because I know that farmers deal with so many dynamics on a daily basis. What are the challenges what are some of the learning experiences, rather, not challenges, but what are some of the learning experiences that you have gained since starting the Crop Box and working directly with farmers?
Sure, where do you even start with working? Speaking about working with farmers, they are an interesting breed of people. Say that with love. But you're right. I think that I've got massive amounts of respect, and I've had to tone down my expectations because I come from corporate, and I know the value of when somebody calls you to say, let's do this, and it needs to happen now. Whereas in farmers' world, they're dealing with so many things at the very same time, and you probably number 105 on that list. So I've had to change my approach, and it requires you to literally get into the car and drive to wherever you want. In terms of getting your supply from a farmer, because guess what, some of them might not have WhatsApp, or if they do have WhatsApp, they only check it in the evening when they have done their full day work, or guess what, they don't have network wherever they are, or they're on the other side of the farm, nobody can reach them. And some farmers operate differently. Once you think that you have figured out how this farmer works, you speak to another farmer and it's completely different. But some of the lessons that I've learned along the way is that you definitely need to have a network of farmers. And this is something that you get to build as you go along. It's about having a black book. As a distributor, you literally have to have a black book where you know that you're going to be getting this from farmer X. If this farmer X doesn't have, because either they've just sold it off to the market or to their client, or they're at the end of their harvest, you need to have an alternative. In my line of industry, it's about timing. Literally, I can get a call now for tomorrow, and that's where you have to whip out that a black book. And so some of the lessons that I've learned along the way is knowing how to work with farmers. And I like what you're saying about communicating. You have to change your approach, even if it means you going, literally driving to the farm yourself, which is the majority of what happens. I mean, we are so used to getting information of Google and calling. It doesn't work all the time. In this industry, you have to be very, very hands-on. And number two, have the patience. So call, literally from 6:30 in the morning to whenever. Call, and be on their neck. Literally, don't take it personally. They literally could be dealing with so many things. And so do yourself a favor instead of getting frustrated. Give yourself patience and leg room. Number 3, have a network of farmers. So those are some of the lessons that I've learned.
Wow, thank you for sharing that, because I can definitely relate. There are 100 and million things that we deal with on a daily basis. But, the reason why I asked that question is because a lot of farmers talk about not having access to market. And you are such an individual that is coming out into the market and saying, I'm willing to assist you by buying produce directly from you. So you're earning a bit of income from all the hard work that you're doing. And I'm packaging that and I'm providing a value add and I'm servicing my customers. So it's always interesting to hear from suppliers like yourself to understand really what happens on the ground when it comes to working with farmers. And similarly, I know that, like we just mentioned, that farmers deal with 100 things at the end of the day, but it's also very important, speaking from a farmer's perspective, it's also very important for farmers to appreciate businesses like yourself, because as much as we might have contracts or relationship with other businesses that we've been supplying for 12 months or many, many years, or just a few weeks, it's also about giving opportunities to businesses like yours, whether it's a small percentage in our operations. We just never know how big that relationship might grow. So for any farmers who are watching and are just saying, oh, I know how the industry is, and I know how farmers think sometimes, and they might be seeing the crop box and they say, okay, maybe I'll just give you a bit of that. But it's always important to not undermine service industries like yourself and businesses like yourself that are really assisting us when it comes to access to markets. But Phumzile, I don't know if you want to touch on that of just what I said, or maybe do you want me to move on to my next question?
Yeah, I think it's a good point for farmers to have visibility of some of the challenges that, insofar as in as much as ourselves as distributors, we, as I'm saying, learned to have the patience, and have a backup plan, all of that. But I do feel like there is no visibility from the farmer side to the opportunities that are missed if they themselves do not have things in track. At the end of the day, you're right, we are giving business, and in as much as we need farmers, because we can't sell our services to anyone without farmers, literally, they also can benefit from what we are giving them, which is business. And what we have is consistency. Of course, if you can't compare to a commercial contract, but I mean, there's stats all over around informal markets, right? And so we equally hold a significant chunk of the market. And so farmers need to be aware that they don't see the other end of it. I mean, some farmers only deliver exclusively to markets. And so the concept of customer service might not come top of mind, whereas we see the pressures from clients. We are front facing, right? So we've got the pressure from clients who want packaging in a certain way, who want delivery on time, in full. As we are nagging because we have got these pressures on our side, not because of anything else. We want to feel special or anything like that. So farmers need to also have line of sight that we've got pressures on the opposite end that they might not see, and they might not necessarily have experience with, because that's not their business model. But I think the visibility is required, is needed.
Right. Just touching on visibility, if there's any farmers watching tonight and you don't have a social media or digital footprint, please do yourself a favor, create a website for your business, because a lot of people are checking online to really see if they could find a supplier with regards to whatever commodity that you're farming. So if you don't have a website, I say start with that, because I know from experience as well, I sometimes, Phumzile, have to turn away business because I already have enough supply, but people find Green Terrace online And
Yes.
I think there's so much power with farmers just having to invest, whatever it's that 5,000 Rand or 4,000 Rand to develop a website, even if it's just a landing page, just to, as long as you're online, because I know that's a big problem in our industry. Farmers are not creating websites. Farmers are obviously not on social media. It's not everybody's business model and strategy, but just to have a website or a landing page to say, we're X farm, we're producing X commodities, and here's our contact number. That's that. And I think that's one step closer to solving the access to market issue. But, Phumzile, you mentioned something quite critical here, that you left a corporate job and went into the crop box. And, right now we're in the global pandemic and you left during that time. And I'm sure people could be thinking, oh my gosh, is she crazy? What a big risk. So I think from my side, give us a bit of insights in terms of, the importance of just starting. Because people always say, I want to start farming, I want to start a business, but I'm scared of this, I'm scared of that, or I'm risk averse. But maybe just touch on the topic of the importance and the power of just starting, because we never know. We don't know what we don't know, and we never know what could happen tomorrow. But here you are, a couple of months later, still with the crop box. I know you have your challenges behind the scenes, which you don't always, not every entrepreneur always communicates, but you're still at it. So maybe just share to us that transitioning from corporate to being an entrepreneur, especially in such a risky time that we find ourselves in South Africa.
Yeah. I think prior to an exit or transition from corporate to your own business is definitely having some sort of an idea or plan, and you having done your groundwork to say, right, this is what I'm going to do. And I mean, I know some businesses or some business owners don't even consider leaving before they reach a certain revenue stage, before they leave their corporate jobs. And so it has to be that a watertight or well thought after, because you're right, it is risky times. But because of the fact that it is risky times, we find ourselves with at least 8 million people being unemployed. So those that don't have a choice, and it's not a matter of choosing to now start a business. You're right, there's no better decision than just starting. And I usually say you start based on 2 principles. Number one, having had your plan, and some people are gifted like that, and they're calculative like that, to say, okay, this is methodically, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do A, B, C, and D, and they just follow that plan. Other people just find themselves in the entrepreneurial space, and unfortunately, that's the culture that we have in South Africa, as with any other developing world. But land on things that you know and you have down to a T. If not a plan, then your skills. Leverage on what you know and what you used to do in corporate. Oftentimes, we think we need to be experts that are whizzes in certain areas and industries before we can start businesses. But believe you me, in that field that you're going to, something like customer service within agriculture, that is a huge asset to have, So leverage on whatever skills and expertise that you have. And even if you're going into an uncharted industry that you have never done before, or you're not truly averse to, trust you me, whatever you come with from whatever background you have is going to add value to your business. And that's going to be your differentiator in terms of what you bring on board to your business, insofar as your experience is concerned. So never doubt yourself. Once you have made your decision, once you have planned and prepared as to, this is the business that I'm going to be running, and yes, of course, like I said, you do have people that find themselves in the entrepreneurial space, but as much as you can, before you take that plunge, make sure that you at least research and see what your competitors are doing. Now I'm practicing the 80-20, where it's not always going to be perfect, so I'm not going to be naive and say wait until things are fully perfect. But when you do make that leap or that jump, or whatever circumstance that you're in, take some time to look around you to see what is happening so that you can differentiate yourself and know what is different that you're going to bring onto the table. Number two, leverage on your skills. And don't take whatever skills that you come with for granted. You can be good with speaking to people, you can be good at writing, leverage on those things and use those skills to your advantage within your business. Or as you're still putting your business up, maybe do that in the interim. Write people's concept papers or people's proposals or people's what's the word? Blogs, for example. Whatever skills that you have, generate income as you're probably still figuring things out. So leverage on what you have. And that's what I would say is key to transitioning. And the last point within transitioning from corporate to running your own business, don't be afraid to make connections. Go back to the people that you used to work with. Don't be afraid to start new relationships, but network as much as possible when you do find yourself within the entrepreneurial space.
Awesome. Thank you so much for those three very, very important tips, especially from someone who's walked the journey like yourself, Phumzile. But lastly, before we bid good night to you, and obviously thanking you so much for sharing such wisdom, where can we find Cropbox? How much is the box? Is there different sizes? And where are you based? Are you only supplying in the metropolitan areas like Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town? Or are you based in Johannesburg? Just where can we find you? Which areas are you supplying to currently? And what's the price of the box that we could expect? Yeah.
Sure. And we are on all social media platforms. Facebook and largely Instagram, and through my own personal page, we are on LinkedIn as well. But first things first, you can catch us on www.thecropbox.africa, and that's where you can have a full picture of what we're about, what our ethos and our principles are, our business model. We've also got an e-commerce page on there as well. And the box itself, from a household perspective, it's currently 360, and it's got about 15 items, fresh produce items in the box. And so on the website, you can see exactly what those items are, even on our social media pages. On social media, we are the Cropbox Africa. And on LinkedIn, you can go to Phumzile Chifunyiwe and you'll find all of my comments with regards to the Cropbox and whatever else I'm doing. And with regards to the demographics, we are specifically servicing Joburg and Pretoria demographics insofar as the boxes are concerned. For wholesale, we deliver out all the way into Mpumalanga, into Limpopo. We go per order. So wherever you need us to be, we can definitely be there insofar as bulk is concerned. But you can catch us on our social media pages. If you want to engage, we're on WhatsApp as well. You can find those details on the social media pages.
Phumzile, thank you so much for your time this evening. I wish you all the best with the business. It's definitely a thriving brand. You've positioned yourself very well in the market, and kudos for you coming into the market in the right time. Even though you might think that the pandemic might have hit you and just really shocked your business model, I really think it came at the right time, and it's about also being able to pivot, based on market changes and immediate demands and unknowns that we never expect. So well done on the Cropbox, and I'm always happy to hear another female in the industry just doing amazing things, even though we haven't reached our goals as yet, or our personal goals or the business goals, but the fact that we're in the industry and we're doing something, because at the end of the day, you really having formalized and establish relationships with farmers, that's just how the industry grows step by step. So wishing the Cropbox all the best of success. And for anybody watching, please check their website, check their social media pages, order the box, and I'm sure give the feedback to Phumzile, because when she gets that feedback, she goes straight to the farmers and tells them to say, hey, you're doing great, or just, increase your production, or whatever the case might be. But thank you so much, Phumzile, and I wish you all the best, genuinely. Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. That was Phumzile Chifunyiwe, who is the CEO and founder of The Crop Box, which is a fresh produce supply company. And as we heard, you can catch them on social media, most importantly on Instagram. That's where they are most active. And currently they're supplying in the Johannesburg and Pretoria regions. So please look out on their website, and they also have a WhatsApp number. So please support her business. She is supporting farmers as well. So if you're buying the Crop Box products, you're definitely buying and supporting farmers directly from the farm. And this is what we talk about, from farm to fork. So please check out their business page on the social media platforms that you mentioned. And if you missed this live today, you could watch it on our YouTube channel. And feel free to comment, share, like, and ask any questions. But thank you so much for joining us this evening. I will see you next week. Have a fantastic weekend, and goodbye from the Farming Podcast, brought to you by Private Property. My name is Mbali Moko, and I will see you next week, Tuesday at 8 o'clock p.m. Take care.